Kitty, did you want to wait for Nancy or did you want to start? She's trying to get in right now.
We can. Well, we'll give her like 2 minutes, right? And then we'll.
Whenever you're ready.
Right.
Don't worry, just keep it. I don't know what he's gonna do. Yeah, yeah, okay. Yeah.
Just tell me, give me the whatever.
You're fine. Just waiting for Nancy to mount up.
Yeah, we zip through them. Just
She
do
didn't
it.
say.
Do it.
Okay.
Zip through. I'm fine either way.
All right. What do you think? Should we get started? Yeah, let's get started. Okay. To call the meeting of Thursday, March 30th, 2023 at 4 o'clock to order. Good afternoon. Thank you for coming. Before we start, I just want to let you know that since the mayor is out of town, I will be running the meeting today. It is the unanimous opinion of this council and the mayor that a meeting with the public involved should be run in person. Now, please stand for the flag salute led by Ms. Faulkner.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
No, I do. Pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act, adequate and electronic notice of this meeting has been provided by posting on the bulletin board in the Beach Haven Municipal Building, on the borough website, and mailing the same to the Beach Haven Times, the Asbury Park Press, and the Press of Atlantic City. Mr. Batista.
Here.
Mrs. Ball Miller. Here. Ms. Lambert.
Here.
Ms. Snyder. Here. Mayor Davis. Yeah, let me just see if we can get her.
There she is. Can't hear her. She's talking.
Can you hear me now?
There you go. Nancy, we are
Okay.
doing a roll call, so you're here.
Yes, I am here.
I have minutes for approval without formal reading from the February 13th, 2023 regular meeting.
Motion to approve the minutes of February 13, 2023 regular meeting.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Ordinance 2023-12C, an ordinance amending Chapter 2, Administrative Code, Section 20, Department of Beach Patrol, in the Borough Code of the Borough Beach Haven, County of Ocean, State of New Jersey, to establish fees for the Junior Lifeguard Program, and this is final reading.
This is a final reading, open to the floor for anyone who wants to speak on this ordinance.
Anyone in the audience wish to speak to ordinance 2023-12C?
If none, I'll close the floor and ask for a motion.
Motion to
moved.
approve 2023-12C.
Thank
I
you,
have a second?
Colleen. Nancy, are you the second?
Yeah, fine.
Mr. Batista?
Yes.
Mrs. Ball Miller?
Yes.
Ms. Lambert?
Yes,
Ms. Snyder?
Yes.
Mayor Davis?
Yes.
All matters listed under item consent agenda are considered to be routine by the municipal council and will be enacted by one motion in the form listed. Any items requiring expenditure are supported by a certification of availability of funds, and any item requiring discussion will be removed from the consent agenda and discussed separately. All consent agenda items will be reflected in full in the minutes. Resolution 88 is allowing the municipal budget to be read by title only. Resolution 90, self-examination of the budget resolution as required by DCA. 92 is acknowledging the hiring of the part-time library director, Jane DeHaven. And 93 is authorizing an executive session to discuss pending and potential litigation and attorney-client privilege.
Does anyone on council like to remove any of these items?
no, I just want to say how grateful we are for the hiring of Jane DeHaven. That's a very welcome addition.
I agree. Okay. Make a motion?
Motion to approve the resolutions within the consent agenda.
Thank you.
A second?
Second.
Mr. Batista?
Yes.
Mrs. Ball Miller?
Yes.
Ms. Lambert?
Yes.
Ms. Snyder?
Yes.
Mayor Davis?
Yes.
Okay, this evening we are discussing and we'll be having introduction to the 2023 municipal budget. The total appropriation for the 2023 municipal budget, including reserves, is $15,576,675.27. This is an increase of $1,961,341.08 over 2022, a 14.41% increase overall. Specifically, those changes from last year's budget, in salary and wage, we see a 2.79% increase. It's $144,706 over last year. And the operating expense is 21.55% over 2022 at $1,816,635.08. The amount to be raised by taxation for this budget is $8,503,036.82. And the tax rate will be increasing by 1 cent over the previous year. The net valuation for the borough right now is $2.16 billion, an increase of $22 million over last year. That's a 1.0361% increase. We are required to do a mandatory tax levy. The minimum appropriation is $47,873, and this is a 21.39% increase over last year's mandatory levy. Some of the budget highlights for this year: we are increasing our bond anticipation notes, our principal pay down from 1.2 million to 2.2 million. So we're going to be making a much larger payment on our debt service this year, because last year we were forgiven the community disaster loan, which we had $1 million set aside to pay. So we're going to turn around and put that right toward our debt service. That CDL forgiveness resulted in an increase in surplus. And we're going to be using some additional surplus this year to balance the budget. So this year we saw a 16% increase in insurance for our employees, mandatory, and an 8% mandatory increase in pensions. And those are increases that are beyond our control. We were granted a New Jersey Municipal Relief Fund, the ability to use as a one-time source of revenue of $11,740.58. So that'll help balance things. In the water utility, for 2023, the appropriation remains at $1,857,500 with no changes over last year. Council, any questions on the municipal budget before I read the official notice? The municipal budget of the Borough of Beach Haven, County of Ocean for the fiscal year 2023. Be it resolved that the following statements of revenues and appropriations shall constitute the municipal budget for the year 2023. Be it further resolved that said budget will be published in the Beach Haven Times in the issue of April 6, 2023, and the governing body of the Borough of Beach Haven does hereby approve the following as the budget for the year 2023. We'll do a roll call. Mr. Batista?
Yes.
Mrs. Ball Miller?
Yes.
Ms. Lambert?
Yes.
Ms. Snyder?
Yes.
Mayor Davis?
Yes.
Notice is hereby given that the budget and tax resolution was approved by the council members of the Borough of Beach Haven, County of Ocean on March 30th, 2023. A public hearing on the budget and tax resolution will be held in this building, 300 Angleside Avenue, on April 27th, 2023 at 4 p.m., at which time and place objections to said budget and tax resolution for the year 2023 may be presented by taxpayers or other interested persons. Thank you. This evening, we have a bill list in the amount of $303,765.93.
Has everyone had a chance to review the bills?
Yes.
So need a motion to approve?
So moved.
Nancy, you want a second?
Yep. Mr. Batista?
Yes.
Mrs. Ball Miller?
Yes.
Ms. Lambert?
Yes.
Ms. Snyder?
Yes.
Mayor Davis?
Yes.
Okay, moving on to general discussion items. Discussion item number 1 is a proposed increase to the contributions for LoSAP. We did receive a letter from 18 Mile First Responder Services requesting that we consider, and the other towns on the island, consider raising the LoSAP contribution. LoSAP is the length of service award program that makes a deposit into a retirement account for any first responders that qualify per the ordinance. Qualification means the number of meetings they attend, how many calls they go on, and things like that. So we do have some options. Bruce and I have been working on this. Our ordinance that we adopted when it was created did not set up any kind of automatic increase for cost of living. We could adopt a resolution granting a one-time increase up to what the amount is set currently, or anywhere in between. And then if down the road we wanted to do another one, we could do another one time by resolution. Or we could adopt an ordinance, changing it and allowing an automatic increase based on the consumer price index. And I think I distributed to you the chart that shows the history since 2001, what those increases looked like. There were maybe 2 years that it was 5%, some years it was 0. So we collaborate with Long Beach Township and Ship Bottom. And we've talked to both the other towns. Long Beach Township is on board with whatever this council decides, how you want to handle it. Ship Bottom, I haven't heard back from yet. Any comments or discussion?
I was hoping we could piggyback with what the
Right.
other towns went, but obviously they put it on
Well,
us.
I know that Nancy did speak with, I think you spoke to Surf City, Nancy. What are they doing?
And Barnegat, like I had a long talk with Kurt, and they're definitely doing it. I mean, I'm of those two options. I think they're taking a suggestion that they were asked to do when they asked for the increase. And so I talked with both of them, and both of them, as I remember, wanted to make sure that they asked me, and I said, well, we would go along with them, and that basically we thought that it was a good idea. These people volunteer, and this is the only compensation they get. And
Are they willing to do an automatic CPI adjustment every year, or are they looking to do a one-time adjustment?
I'm not really sure, Sherry. I can't remember. I can check with them, when I get back, or while I'm still here. I'll be back early next week. Basically, when I talked to them, I didn't have those options in front of me. And I remember I had a long talk with Kurt. I was driving. So, but basically, I'll check and find out what they want to do.
I know that
We're just
getting
discussing
volunteers
this
is,
tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, getting
Getting
volunteers is
volunteers
not
is-
easy.
yeah,
Hmm.
it's up to you guys. What are your feelings?
Basically, for me, anybody who gets up in the middle of the night and runs out in all kinds of conditions to protect our community, I'm fine with the automatic.
So if we put the ordinance in effect, it wouldn't be added to the budget until next year. It would be for the certified list of volunteers from 2023. That benefit would be paid in 2024. We did some math based on the certified lists from this year, and it would be about 13,000, 14,000 additional for the borough to make these changes.
Mhm.
Yeah, I agree with Colleen.
I
It's the
agree.
least we can do.
So
Yeah, I
you're
do too.
you're willing to do an ordinance with an annual increase for
Mhm.
the consumer price index, or cost of living?
Yes.
I don't have
I think
any
that's
problem
it.
with that.
Just
Um,
from where we're at now.
Bruce was asking if the council would consider any retroactive pay. I didn't consider that.
Okay, I wasn't
Um,
asking to consider, just whether, I wanted to make sure I was clear with the direction, so.
Yeah. I know when we
I don't
talked to
think-
the Long Beach Township about it, they were concerned about going back into a budget year and trying to make a payment.
Mhm.
You know, that
I think
budget
we
is
should just
gone.
We should go forward, not
Yeah.
backwards.
So just perspective,
Mhm.
automatic increases. Okay.
Thank you. Number 2 on the general discussion item is the review of a legal opinion that we received regarding the boats moored at the end of West Avenue and Pearl Street. Bruce, did you want to speak to that?
Sure. If council and the public might recall, last year we had a discussion and we ended up hiring Maritime Riparian Council to give us an opinion. And to kind of cut to the chase, the opinion was that the borough has the authority to regulate or not regulate, whatever it's under the borough's control, the area. If you follow Pearl Street underwater, that's our riparian area, and it goes to the end of West Street. If you follow the bulkhead of those properties on West Street, they would come out, it forms a little triangle where Pearl underwater would meet West Street. That's the area, that's our riparian area, and we have the right to regulate it as the borough sees fit.
So currently there is a regulation on the books for the riparian areas that limits mooring of vessels for more than 2 hours. So that would apply to this area. And then obviously the council should decide what you want to do with it, because that's not how it's being used right now.
So this ordinance 141-6 was put into effect in 1988 and hasn't really been enforced in that area of Pearl and West. And even before 1988, there was always Garveys there and clammers and people that would go out to the oyster beds, what was remaining left now. So I feel that there should be an exemption for that area.
So change the ordinance.
Yes, I'm not proposing to keep the ordinance as is so that there cannot be mooring at street ends. And that was the original intent of this ordinance, so people couldn't tie up to every street end. There was some type of conflict that Councilman Allen explained when he was on council. So I would like to see an exemption for that area, just because it's been that way for almost 100 years.
Mhm.
I think I'd like to hear from other members, since
So let me get this straight, because this started from before I was on council.
Do you have a
so-
copy of this?
use your microphone
Oh,
too,
yeah,
please.
sorry. Just to get this, make sure I know exactly what we're voting on and deciding on. So an exemption here would mean that people could tie up to the bulkhead
Kitty, move your.
They tie up by poles down there.
by poles, okay. And they could keep them there there's no restriction on time. Okay.
Correct.
I know that it's been used for years and years by, a lot of people that we know, that I know that have used it, and yeah, okay. So hear what everyone else has to say.
I have no problem with what Jamie's suggesting. I think I think to change it now is a bit harsh. I think it's worked. I don't see a problem with it, so.
I agree. I think, it's a nice place for people to park their boats and sort of first come, first serve, and and it makes sense to amend the ordinance so we don't have that at every street end. But that's what I do.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I would only comment that, I guess, Bruce, maybe you could weigh in on the liability to the borough. If something were to happen within that grant and we were challenged for it, by it or otherwise.
I mean, there's very
Use your mic, please.
liability questions are very fact sensitive. I would equate that to a situation like a public sidewalk or public property. If we have notice of a dangerous condition under the Tort Claims Act, then we could have liability. Other than that, we have some immunities under Title 59 for personal injury. There's a verbal threshold.
Bruce, we're not charging people to tie their boats up there. Doesn't that have some effect? It's sort of come first serve, come at your own
That
risk.
that could impact liability determinations on whether there's a charge or it's a business invitee, for example. It establishes a different duty of care as opposed to just passive borough property.
Mhm.
Another option would be to drive piles there and offer for auction an annual lease for a low price and get hold harmless and insurance and all the documents that we've been talking that we were concerned about from the beginning about liability and it being used for business or what have you. And
One of
I'm
the
also,
problems are- I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
Jamie, are you going, are they mooring to poles now?
There.
And you want to leave the poles there? And who owns the poles?
Burr.
Can anybody tie up to
Oh,
it?
not the poles. Burr owns a bulkhead. So anybody can stick a pole in.
I mean, the boats never
The boats-
leave there.
Are they tied to the bulkhead?
They're the front end, they're not tied to the bulkhead. In times of severe weather, most likely they'll be tied to the bulkhead. But there's other areas in town where boats have put a supporting strap onto the bulkhead.
and we have many riparian grants in town, riparian areas, and I just want to be careful that we're not singling one spot out and allowing something and then
How many boats are we talking about on average down there?
7, maybe 5.
Well, I mean, it's really shallow
think
at
we-
the east end. So you don't, you can't moor much at the east end. You have to go towards the west end of the area to actually.
Nancy, I think the chief would like to speak on this matter. So let's, what
Right.
he has to say.
I just wanted to say, I don't have a problem with the boats being parked down there, but we've asked them a number of times to not tie to the bulkhead. And they're almost continuously tied to the bulkhead. It's supposed to be only during severe weather that they tie to the bulkhead. And when you go down there every day, the same boats are tied to the bulkhead. The problem is the ordinance is not clear enough. If you're gonna allow the boats to just stay there, could we straighten up the ordinance a little bit so it's easier to read and enforce? We just don't want the boats tied to the bulkhead because it's a new bulkhead
Hmm.
and it's, you know,
So you are objecting to the boats being tied to the bulkhead, but
Yes.
not being moored there?
if the council wants the boats to stay there, that's up to the council. I'm just asking if we can not tie to the bulkhead.
What's the objection to tying to the bulkhead?
You're tying to a brand new bulkhead, there's a tripping hazard. There's people that play down around there, kids go down there. These ropes are just left there. They're an eyesore,
How are they getting on and off the boats?
climbing down off the bulkhead.
The poles are
There
like
is,
6 inches from the bulkhead.
Mhm.
yeah, there's supposed to be a gap between the bulkhead and the poles that are out there, which most of them are. That area in front, we had made a no parking zone and vehicles are still parking there and they go out, sit on their boat for a while, do their stuff and just leave the cars there. It's kind of it becomes a problem when people go down that road, there's nowhere really to turn around. So if we could just, all I'm asking is if you guys want to allow it to remain the way it is, can we just straighten up the ordinance so that we can actually get people to stop tying to the bulkhead?
have you issued any tickets for people parking in the shells?
No. No, usually by the time we get the complaints and we get down there, it's, the next day or we'll hear about it through an email or secondhand.
Are most of the people that complain, people that live,
Yes, people that live down there.
and what is their objection? Just they don't want anyone parking
Well,
there?
It blocks
I mean,
up, it blocks up the
Are
end
the
of the
boaters bothering them or? it's
It
like-
blocks up the end of the road. They've submitted several pictures of the people who go down there that have their boats. They'll have their animals running loose down there. They'll defecate. They'll just push stones over it.
I've never
They'll throw
seen it.
trash.
Chief,
I have
I've
video
never
and
seen those pictures.
I-
And you
no
never
problem showing it to
showed,
you.
you've never presented those pictures to us. I've never seen them of you.
Well, I'm just thinking, could we just like maybe have the borough put however many pilings or poles in? I don't want to get into the auctioning or any of that stuff. But if it would make it easier that they can tie up to these poles that are literally just a gap from the bulkhead.
They already have their poles are already.
No,
out.
but I'm saying, put the big one, because apparently there's a little pole they don't like, and that's why they tie to the bulkhead when there's a storm. Give them a substantial piling, put it in, and we've been going around and around and around on this for how long now? We've done site visits, we've had so much to do. It just seems like there's an easier fix than to keep playing this game all the time. I know the residents weren't happy. I know the boat owners weren't happy. But if we could meet that criteria and move on, I think that's the easiest thing.
Oh, I don't know, what would the
We
cost on
fixed
that?
we fixed the problems with the bikes being left down there. We got rid of all the bikes that were just left there for the whole season rusting.
Is there a bike rack down there?
There was, the bike rack, there's a bike rack for the end, but there's also a bike rack. There was a bike rack that was left there that the people in the condos were using. So all those bikes have been removed. And there was an ordinance that to keep people from leaving bikes parked there for an extended period of time. So that way it could be used for the people who just want to go down to the beachfront, because there are people that want to go down and sit on the benches down there. The other problem we have is that the people with the boats like to move the benches where they want them, move the trash cans out of their way. So we're dealing with that stuff as it comes up. Public Works is dealing with that for us.
It's really kind of a unique situation because there's also a dock attached down there as well. So would you recommend removal of that as well? Is that, I mean,
I'd like
I mean,
to
if
see that
that's-
removed. I think the issue is that they're I was told that they're renting that dock out now. I don't know if that's true or not.
Who's they?
I don't
the-
know.
whoever
That's not true. That is not true. I
right.
checked on that. That's not true. And the
Okay.
people that own the dock said anybody is willing to tie their boat, is allowed to tie their boat up to that dock. Anybody, and kids can go on it. They are never charged a nickel for anybody tying up on that dock. And it's also been approved and grandfathered in by the DEP.
Yeah. I was going to say, I
Yeah,
thought they
I
had
believe they
DEP
can-
approval.
I
Yeah.
believe there was something with the
Mhm.
DEP. They went back and forth, and I think they were allowed to have it there for.
No, well, that's why we hired the
think
lawyer.
you told me that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they said that since it's been there for quite a while, since 2000, that they really didn't see any problems with that, but that's why we took counsel of the Marine Council, and that's where they came
Yeah.
back and said that we have jurisdiction in that.
That's up to the council what they
Yeah.
want to do with that.
Mhm.
So I was saying if,
I
you
don't
know,
have a preference with that.
I'm kind of leaning Colleen's way a little bit on this one. I'd like a little more time just to kick it around, maybe to next meeting or something. I wasn't prepared to make a decision on it tonight, but
yeah,
I think
Yeah,
it
it's
seems
just
like it
up
has
for
to be
discussion.
cleaned up a little bit.
but there's, I mean, just also know that there's also boats throughout town that use the bulkhead as a supporting line,
Mhm.
many boats.
I think the fact that we have more leeway with this, gives us more, because then, the police could obviously go and ticket whoever is tying up in another area of town where we don't own it. But I think for this, truthfully, I don't have a problem with things saying status quo. It's just that, how many more times are we going to kick this football around? It just, if there's an easier fix, but I think the guys and ladies who have had their boats there forever, I do not want to disrupt that.
Yeah.
Just
And,
trying,
we want them to be respectful as well,
yeah.
hopefully.
So you'd like to see an exemption added to the ordinance for this area?
Yes, because it's unique.
Okay.
Well, it's just up for discussion tonight, right? So it's something
Yes.
to think about and think about the piling. I like that idea, I think, but I'm not familiar with this whole area, which seems that Jamie, you seem to have a better grasp on what's happening down there. So I'd like a little time to talk to you about it and maybe, right? Because we're not voting on it tonight anyway.
If we aren't going to come to any decision tonight, I will put it on the agenda again, because right now
Okay.
our ordinance is regulating the area in a way that we don't want. So we're going
Right.
to have to do something.
Okay. How do you feel about that?
Well, we've been looking the other way since the 80s, so we can look the other way for a couple more.
Exactly.
Thank you.
So it's 1:30. So at this time, we would like to open the floor for public comment on any topic. When you come up, please state your name and address and keep your comments to no longer than 3 minutes.
Kitty, before we get into public comment, I got an email, I'm sure you all did too, about children stating their name and address.
Oh, yeah, from Barbacona.
I
Good point.
kind of agree with that.
I do too.
And I'm trying to think in my own mind how to get around that. And I think that maybe a suggestion would be that if a parent or a guardian wants to have a minor testify before the board, that they contact the borough clerk before the meeting and provide the information so that it can be kept confidential.
Just for the public's knowledge, it was an email from Barbacona. I don't remember exactly how it was stated, but it was a suggestion that when children come, as they have, and it's been great seeing all the kids get involved, but it is a concern. It's something I thought of the first night, stating their name and address, and that it could be a problem. And we want to protect our kids, of course. So it's something that we should be all considering. I don't know, Bruce, by law, do you have to need, even if you're a minor?
There's been a lot of discussion on that actually over the last couple of years, whether names are actually required. My opinion is always that, at least for adults, names should be required because the minutes should accurately reflect what occurred at the meeting. As for children, I think it would be legally acceptable either with Mr. Batista's suggestion that the names are provided ahead of time, or it's limited to a first name, Beach Haven resident minor,
Right.
John, for example.
I don't think a lot of, sometimes you decide the day of to come and speak your mind. So I'd rather do it
There's
that way
ways around it,
personally.
or if there's some other factual basis, depending on the nature of the discussion, where you might want to keep the name confidential, we could note that somehow in the minutes. So
Well, if any child that's under 18 that has spoken, the parents are in the audience. So, if the parent states their name and address, and this is my son or daughter, and I prefer not to give their name. I mean, wouldn't that suffice?
I think the concern.
that would
was more
suffice, or the address, omit the address.
Yeah, I think that the
Yeah.
concern was the address. So if the parents are giving their address, difficult
Well, and,
situation.
not all parents have, I just,
Right, but then the child's name's not stated in the minutes.
However you guys want to handle it.
Yeah.
many
I mean-
children got up and gave their name and address.
There's
Because they
no
told-
reasonable
they told-
expectation of
Right.
privacy
And I
in
think that's
public.
something we should change. That's-
So, but there's nothing that would prevent you from putting in some protections.
Yeah,
I agree.
okay. I actually did have one other thing I wanted to bring up, and I forgot, thank you, but I think if there's one thing we've learned from the past few meetings, that most people are passionate one way or another about pickleball or skate park. And the bottom line is it's activities and recreation. And so I think I would like to think about starting a recreation committee, either just in Beach Haven or island-wide, to have events for kids all summer long, either at the school, like pickup basketball with someone running it, volleyball, just there's all kinds of things that we could do. And it seems to me that everybody's screaming for things for the children to do. And I think an organized events would be a good idea. It's something I'd like to look into, and get some high school kids involved so anyway, that's it. All right. Anything else? Okay. Okay. So let's open the floor to public comment. Chief.
Adam Ellender, 100 South Bay Ave. Just a couple things I want to talk about tonight. I'll try to keep it short and sweet. I do appreciate the fact that you guys are going to consider the LoSAP increase. I'm actually the one that brought it up to the 18 Mile Emergency Services Association. What we're looking to do is, there hasn't been an increase in LoSAP since it started. But what I brought to them is also having the ordinance changed, because it's not really about me. It's about the future of the volunteers for the squads and for the fire companies. And we agreed unanimously that in a way to get recruitment and retention, that if we have these increases, that we have better chances of surviving as volunteers here. So I do appreciate that you guys are considering that. The second thing is, I'm sure that most people in town have been hearing the sirens the last couple of days. We've been
Just
working
heard
on
that.
them. Yep. So 2 of the 3 sirens are working. The one at Nelson, they're still fixing, but the sirens are up. We're looking to move up on the new paging system April 1st. So the policy will be in place with the agreement that we have with the Borough of Beach Haven, having the sirens off at night from the hours of 10 p.m. till 7 a.m. Unless we have a working structure fire or an emergency deemed necessary to call for volunteer help. So we're on track with everything with that as well. And the last thing is the Knox boxes. Knox box ordinance was passed. I've been getting phone calls and emails about it from business owners. I'm happy to field any. So if any business owners have any questions about it, reach out to me through the fire company, either email, phone, through our directory, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you, guys.
Adam,
Thank you.
before you leave on the Knox box issue,
Yes.
I was thinking about that. I saw your correspondence go through. Perhaps maybe you might want to get Public Works involved in for a fee, installing the Knox box on commercial properties. It'd be a lot easier, like for myself.
Right.
By the time you research and even calling you and contact Knox box and figure out which one you need and so forth and so on. I mean, there's a finite number of commercial properties in our town. I think if we get them all outfitted through Public Works and for a fee, I'm not suggesting that the borough pay for it. I think you'll get it done a lot faster and at less confusion for the commercial side.
So the only issue with that, and I appreciate the idea, I think it's fantastic. The only sticking point with that is we have the keys to unlock the box to do the installations. So at that point, what we're looking to do as far as fire prevention and also to hopefully change our ISO rating is we're also trying to convince these business owners when we're going to do the installs, because we've been helping them do it, that we can do pre-planning. So we can look at your business, we can look at whatever hazards you may have, we can identify where your FDCs are located, how far it is to the hydrant, how many floors, anything like that. Hotels that have pool rooms and it's full of chlorine, if we get a fire in there, we kind of need to know if we're going to be spraying water into a room full of chlorine, because then it could turn into a hazmat situation. So as far as the fire company, it's an opportunity for us to A, engage the community, and B, further fire protection here by finding out what we have here in Beach Haven, what new businesses are popping up, and, create a better rapport with the business owners. So
Maybe I misunderstood it. Is the fire company actually doing the install?
it's up to the person, but every person that's reached out to me personally about it, and they said, how do I go about this?
Yeah.
As soon as you get the Knox box, we have to come unlock it for you. You would be doing the install, but we're happy to help do the installation. We're not going to take any kind of liability on, but if we help you pick the location of it, if it's something that may be an eyesore and you want it on the side of the building, we can work with you on that. If there's other information, alarm codes, if you have a hotel, having a layout of where all the rooms are so that we can make a better, a quicker, service for whatever incident alarm is going off, we can help you with that. So what we're trying to do is engage the community through this, using this as an opportunity for us to, get more information and help the community with these Knox boxes. So if that means that, they need help, we have a business owner that's not around here and they need help installing it, we'll help. We can do it. I have no issues with that. So whatever we can do to help out the citizens of Beach Haven, we're going to do.
And I just want to point out too, that when you go to the Knox box site, either just go to it or you follow the link through the fire company site. When you click to order, it's going to ask you your zip code and it's going to ask you who your fire company is from a drop down, and they're there. And the two that they chose come up.
Yep.
One residential, one commercial. It's real easy.
Yep.
You just pick one and they get notified when it gets purchased. It's very seamless.
Okay.
So even if you purchase, let's say that you're a business owner and you're not here, you can order it online. When it gets delivered, we get notified that it's delivered, and we can reach out to each other and set up a day where we can come and do the installation, planning, all that stuff. So
Okay.
I'm happy to help.
So
anybody that needs it.
knoxbox.com.
Knoxbox.com, correct.
Okay.
All right. Thank you,
Chief.
guys.
Thank you. Anyone else? State your name and address.
5404 South Long Beach Boulevard, Holgate. My wife's the owner of 401 Center Street, the Holiday Snack Bar. And I just wanted to brief you all. I want to try to give you at least 100 pages worth of legal documentation in a 3-minute presentation to make sure we're all on the same page of what's going on at the Holiday Snack Bar as far as the legal suit. I said, I want to be sure that you all understand the Holiday Snack Bar side of this legal dispute. To begin with, I would like to state that I'm certain reasonable people could work out a solution that would be fair and logical without taxpayers spending thousands of dollars towards law firms, upwards of $50,000-$60,000 at this point. Not me, that's not my expense, that's our expense. Since 2013, the holiday was granted outside seating with a borough document stating 4 tables of 6 chairs each. This was eventually found and provided by the town administrator. The Holiday Snack Bar operated with 45 seats inside and at least 24 seats outside for a total of 69 seats. Outside, I say at least because there was also a stack of chairs if needed. Many of you may recall that by your visits to the Holiday Snack Bar. I certainly do. Up until 2020, then the pandemic hit. We didn't own the place. The pandemic ordinance allowed Glenn to have 45 seats outside in the buffer zone. That's important. The buffer zone is now important. All diagrams were approved by the town. So he had given them the diagram with the tables in the buffer zone. It was approved by the town. They carried on without incident the entire time, 2020. Glenn never had the opportunity to open up his indoor seating because the pandemic didn't open that up. We take a chance and buy this place during a pandemic just because of the spirit of the Holiday Snack Bar, pretty much. And in our first year, 2021, Eileen purchased a Holiday with 45 outside and 45 inside seats. The pandemic seating was lifted in June. So we were blessed, obviously, because we spent every dime we had. We were blessed with 45 seats opening up inside for a total of 90 seats. We operated without complaint, not one complaint. We opened all the information we could. There was no complaints in the history of the holiday that came up in our search until the following year. In 2022, we opened for 1 month to June, up to June, under the same conditions, 45 outside seats, but only 30 inside seats, not 45 inside seats, because those of you who are familiar with the holiday, we removed we put a new hood in the back because the seats sat right next to the grill and it was a serious hazard for the fire marshal and our insurance company. So we took 15 seats out of the back to make room for this hood. So we had 15 less seats. Now we operated with 75 seats with no complaints until June. June is when the complainee shows up next door to the Holiday Snack Bar. Well, they complain about us serving breakfast. We added breakfast in 2022. To our understanding from reading.
About 30 seconds.
We are issued summonses for serving breakfast outside before 9 a.m., a 3-person committee ruling. What are breakfast hours? That's what it says, breakfast hours. We were asked what breakfast hours are. Nobody tells us what breakfast hours are. So we assume 8 o'clock in the morning, because if you can start a power tool, a chainsaw at 8 o'clock in the morning and do construction, we figured breakfast would probably fall under that ordinance. We're issued a summons for having tables in the buffer zone. They granted us permits with diagrams of the tables in the buffer zone. We were issued a summons for having a mobile bar for somebody's 21st birthday. We didn't hire a mobile bar.
That's
The people
time,
that
Brian.
had the mobile bar.
I'd like to waive their time for just another minute.
How much longer?
I probably need a minute, but I skipped a minute, but
All right, well, let's
I think
just,
you guys get the gist of this. If I could have a minute extension, I would be
I-
ever grateful.
Go ahead.
Please note, throughout all of this, outside seating capacity was never an issue. That was never an issue. The 3 summonses had nothing to do with outside seating capacity. Through this time in debate with the town, we were given, the first thing that they're still on right now is, we were never granted permission for outdoor seating. I think we all know that we've had outside seating there since 2013. Then they say we were granted a note with 16 outside seats. Then we're provided a document that says we had 24 outside seats. Then we have a permit that approved this for 36 outside seats. And we have other documentation that it would have been up to 62 seats. We have all this in documentation, all of what I'm saying. None of this is just hearsay. It's all documented in emails, text messages. I mean, I think today the business administration is holding us to 45 seats. I don't understand this when they know we had 69 seats total prior
That's time.
to us or to our ownership. I would like to say it's a runaway train at this.
I've lost sound. Can you hear me? I have no sound. Can anybody hear me? Can anybody hear me? Can anybody hear me?